All right, the April 7th, 2026 Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting for the City of Panama City is hereby called to order. We have the opening prayer by the Reverend Braden Friday, pastor of Living Waters Ministries, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Deputy Executive Director Brandy Waldron. Would you please stand?
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for another day that you've given us. Thanking you, O Lord, for your loving kindness and grace, your mercy, your infinite wisdom. And Father God, we come asking for your help right now, your divine intervention. Father, despite what's going on in the world and despite all of the upheaval, Father, we ask for your divine instruction here in Bay County. God, that you would give us instruction and wisdom on how to abide together in unity, that we might accomplish the things that need to be accomplished on behalf of this community. Father, that we might bring forth honor and glory unto you. I thank you, Lord, decreeing by faith that it will be so as we abide in you and as we follow your principles. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I know that Board Member Hughes and Board Member Street are both running behind. We will acknowledge them when they arrive, but Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Granger?
Present.
Board Member Lucas?
Present.
Chairman Branch?
Present.
All right. We have a quorum with 3 voting members present. Board members, you have the minutes from the March 3rd, 2026 CRA board meeting in your packets. Staff would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda by either staff or by the board members? All right. Seeing none, moving into item number 6. Item number 6 is audience participation. This is open to any issue related to the authority of the Panama City CRA. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Patty Sunday, 1115 Fairland. I just started, congratulations on that beautiful plan for the CRA. It's wonderful. I was starting to review it this afternoon, and I noticed on the Oaks by the Park, it calls for a playground in there, and maybe that was a typo because my understanding is we're going to do a playground across the street at the Truesdale, and I think it was the previous commissioner before Josh Sells Insurance, help me.
Nichols.
Thank you. Commissioner Nichols, that told me that the artifacts that are in the Tallahassee Museum of the First Nation tribes were from that site of Oaks by the Park. I need to verify that, but in my mind, I like it the way it is. I do yoga and things there a lot, and I don't see a playground being a fit in there. So it's in your plan, and it seems like it would be duplicitous. The next question I have and comment is on the 5 months for the MLK development extension. Will you guys be sharing any more detail? Are you waiting for a grant to come in for infrastructure? Are you waiting for more TIF money to accrue? Why the 5 months? Open to anything that will help people be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunday. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Dick Lovejoy. My wife, Reba, and I operate the Antique Cottage at 903 Harrison Avenue. Today, I'm representing the mission over in Craft Avenue, which we call the Baptist Center. And we had a presentation by the Millville CRA executive, and she came on a Sunday afternoon and presented an outstanding presentation to the board. was able to answer all our questions and encouraged us in every way that could possibly be, which we need. But I want to say thank you to the CRA for representing, at least allowing her to come on a Sunday afternoon and make such a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovejoy.
All right. Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. Apologies, I've been running from meeting to meeting today. So first, I just want to start off by saying thank you to the CRA, specifically Michelle Zucker. I saw the signage for Henry Davis Park. It looks amazing, super exciting for the ribbon cutting there and all the hard work that UF Extension Master Gardeners and PC Senior Living Group has done to make that a really viable park. And of course, Kiwanis for the playground. There were a lot of kids out there the other day. I counted about 22. I think that's the most I've ever seen out there. Unfortunately, my grandson likes it a lot, so I think we'll probably spend more time there than at the MLK Rec playground. But again, thank you to the CRA for that awesome work. So kind of piggybacking off of Ms. Sunday's comment, my first question is, what is the 5-month extension request for? It looks like in the information that was shared, of course, the mayor has shared as well, when it comes to property on MLK, stormwater is a big issue and a concern. So if that is the issue, how are they looking to resolve it if that's a part of the 5-month extension request? The second thing is for line item 8. You guys are looking to finalize that today. My only comment there is I hope that that is not going to become a parking lot. That is commercial, prime commercial real estate, and that would be something that it looks like could be a business investment if the opportunity presents itself. Line item 3. Question, is this a part of the Spark program that the CRA is looking to create? If not, are CPI grants back for the various businesses and residential residents in a CRA? If we could get clarification on that. Also, congratulations on the park, line item 10 for the CRA with a new playground at Truesdale Park. Number 11, if you guys could update the community on how this would benefit the citizens. Last, I looked at the projects for the 25-26. I didn't see any information about the historical preservation of 80 Harris. And actually, that's not last. The last two things is there any traction in the Adopt a Park? And tying back into line item 9, are CPI grants coming back for specific CRAs? Thank you guys so very much.
You're welcome, Ms. Bryant. Any other public comments?
So, my name is Karen Landry. My address is 5801 Lower Street. That's in Callaway, but property owner Landry Family Trust in the downtown North CRA. So I want to start off by saying thank you for the opportunity to participate in the Incremental Development Alliance workshop. So there are several astute incremental real estate developers that have benefited and are benefiting from the opportunity to participate, and we hope that it can be reflected in some of the work that's being done in the CRAs going forward. In relation to item number 7, regarding the extension for due diligence period, after looking at the information, I just have a couple of questions that I'd like to propose. It looks as if only 20% of the proposed housing for this new development is affordable, when 80% of the population in that area makes below $75,000 a year, which is also along the median income for the entire county. And so with the housing that is proposed, if 16 units will be for housing, is that apartment units, or is that going to be condominium units or townhouse units that that is being proposed? And if so, will the price points allow for the opportunity for people that may want to move back into the community to be able to purchase housing, or the workforce, thinking of teachers and police officers and others that work in that area? In alignment with the CRA goals, the cultural identity of the community, based on CRA goal number 7, should reflect the historic identity of Glenwood. And I am a former resident of Glenwood. I grew up there and attended the first recreation center that was there. So my passion is still for the Glenwood area where I grew up. Economic inclusion, the CRA plan does emphasize partnerships between developers and residents, as well as supporting small businesses. And so as we think about what we have going forward, is this an opportunity for utilizing the cohort of incremental developers to help reshape a neighborhood, and perhaps with a smaller size grocery store, and working along with the CRA as well as others?
Thank you, Ms. Landry. We appreciate your comments tonight, ma'am.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other public comments this evening?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Ms. Lewis Williams.
How's everyone today? Good. I'm not going to regurgitate what everyone else has said. For the most part, I agree.
Name and address, ma'am.
Brenda Lewis Williams, 2748 Oakhammock Drive, 32401. I do disagree with extending Sancova for 5 months. They knew this was there. They should have done all this, their due diligence, and taken care of it then. Additionally, there's no monies out here. Say what you want. Monies are drying up. We're moving into a recession, big time, but there's no monies out here for them. So I believe that's part of why they want the 5-month extension. That's my thoughts. You don't have to agree with me, it doesn't matter. I still have heartburn about the 15th Street property. I don't understand why we're using CRA dollars to rehab private property that is being rented, as opposed, and this is one of your pet projects. What is the name of that place? Get You a Box. That's one of your babies again. But I don't understand why we're using CRA dollars to rehab this building, and it's not owned by the person who has the business in there. And my understanding is that's not how CRA dollars, so you all need to revisit that. I think that's you and Commissioner Lucas's baby. I put both of you in there. The park presentation is beautiful. My concern and heartburn with Truesdale Park, there's no children down there. There's old folks like me. You all need to revisit that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments this evening?
My name is Melody Johnson Kuntz, and I am here representing the property owner of my family, my mother, who is Laura Johnson, and we have a historical relationship with this community. My grandmother is Lady Ethel Spires and Henry Spires, and they owned Lady Ethel's Beauty School for many years here in Panama City. I'm here because others are here. We're concerned about this 5-month extension and the reason that we need it. It appears that, from what I'm hearing, that it's going to change the entire residential atmosphere of the community with a 20% housing development, and that's way too small to have any kind of balance with the kind of commercial development that would be coming in. So that's why I'm here, and I'm glad that we can ask questions and get answers, and we thank you for your service. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other public comments this evening for the CRA Board? All right. Seeing none, audience participation is now closed. Moving into item number 7. Item number 7 is consideration and approval of a 5-month extension to the due diligence period and the development agreement with the Sankofa Group for the Glenwood Town Center project. As background information, at the April 15th, 2025 CRA Board meeting, the Sankofa Group presented a proposal to redevelop CRA-owned parcels at MLK Boulevard and 15th Street, known as the Glenwood Town Center, a mixed-use project including a community grocery store and residential units. Following the required public notice period, the CRA Board authorized staff to begin negotiations with the Sankofa Group for a potential purchase or public-private partnership, resulting in the approved development agreement signed on July 29th of 2025. As part of the developer's 6-month due diligence process, additional engineering analysis was conducted to evaluate stormwater requirements for the site. A recent stormwater analysis identified potential constraints related to the project's location along a state-designated highway, actually highways plural, and the need to meet the Florida Department of Transportation stormwater standards. Several potential stormwater solutions were identified, with preliminary cost estimating ranging from approximately $890,000 to $1.8 million, depending on the approach that would be selected. To allow time for further engineering review and coordination regarding stormwater solutions and site design, the Sankofa Group has requested a 5-month extension to the due diligence period. Staff recommendation is that the board approve a 5-month extension to the due diligence period for the development agreement with the Sankofa Group to allow additional time for engineering evaluation and refinement of the Glenwood Town Center. Mr. Chairman and board members, I'll just note that Mr. Pedro Gasant with the Sankofa Group has joined us virtually on Zoom. Additionally, we have City Engineer Stacy Roush in the audience, willing and able to answer any questions about this, as well as Mr. Rush Rodney, who's the project manager with Anchor Engineering, who is the engineering firm for the Sankofa Group. So at this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Gasant to address the board and the public. Go ahead, Mr. Gasant.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much. My sincere apologies for not being able to join with video. I wish I could be there, but unfortunately, I'm unable to be there in person. So the short of it is that as we engage in due diligence with respect to the site, one of the things that we realized was that the stormwater infrastructure would impact the plan that we had provided representation to the city and to the CRA regarding our design for the property. With respect to the stormwater, that cost of between $850,000 to $1.8 million has a substantial impact to the development of the site. And so we are, me, myself, and my engineering team are looking at what can we do to modify and to address this to ensure that we can provide for a plan that is conceptually consistent with what we presented to the CRA with respect to our request. And so my big thing is always ensuring that I'm consistent with the representations that I've made and ensuring that we're moving forward in a manner that's consistent with what we said we are going to do. And so what I wanted to do is be able to put myself in a position where we could have some additional time to analyze the additional impact that this has and, what we're going to do to accommodate the additional stormwater on site while also being in a position to move forward with a plan that is consistent with the project. And so that's really our request. I know that there are some folks who make comments regarding the affordability, et cetera, et cetera. I know that a lot of that has already been addressed in our initial standpoint. That issue for the commitment was something that I think we had already made a commitment to the city, and any additional costs only constrains us further. So really right now, what I'm seeking to do is ensure that we're in a position to move forward with the project and that we can curate it in a manner that's going to be consistent with what we represented to the city.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Gasant. All right, this time I would turn over to board members for any potential questions. We would also entertain a motion to approve for the sake of discussion. And again, I just want to reiterate, we do have the engineering folks that have been working very closely with Mr. Gasant and his team in regards to this.
Thank you. I'd like to move a motion to approve the recommendation coming from the CRA staff.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
If we could have Stacy come up. And
Sure.
just-
Ms. Rouse, please come on down.
So Stacy is aware of a discussion we've been having with FDOT in regards to stormwater. For those that don't know, there's an expansion of Highway 98 that's going alongside, and so there will be some taking of some property that is located also at this parcel. And so it does create some stormwater challenges. Could you communicate to the board what we've discovered thus far and what you guys are working on now in conjunction with the new calculations from FDOT?
Yeah, Stacey Rausch, City Engineer. We reached out to FDOT to see if there was additional capacity in some of the ponds that they have to build as part of this expansion. That is something that they can do, is kind of build a little bit extra capacity within their ponds and then sell it, share, something like that. And that way we would not have to encroach into further footprint for other stormwater. They did reach back out to us and say that they did not have capacity for all 155,000 cubic feet of water that we're talking about that this development would need. But they did say that they, the Henry Davis pond that was created as part of the redevelopment of that park many years ago, when that pond was created, it was actually only created as kind of to help out with drainage in the area. It was not created as a quality or attenuation pond. And with the addition of their new pond for the widening of 98, they will be reducing their outfall to the Henry Davis pond. So they are going to essentially be creating additional capacity for us in that pond. So it could be re-permitted, potentially modified slightly to create some capacity. We don't exactly have the numbers. I think we just got the email back from FDOT, I think yesterday or Thursday, I can't remember. But they have run some minor models to show that they will be reducing the amount of runoff to our pond. So there's just a little bit more of an investigation to see exactly what that would allow in our pond, if there's any further modifications. And they didn't exactly say they don't have capacity in their new pond, but they just said they did not have enough. So that's another conversation that I want to follow up with them about is there any, they don't, not the whole 155,000, but is there a portion in that pond that they could offer to us for this development? Or if there is not at all, then we'll have to go down the route of trying to find all of it in the future pond. Or I know that Pedro was looking at acquiring other properties. I know that there was not a whole lot of traction with a couple of properties nearby. I haven't been involved in the details of the internal development, but that's the gist we've gotten from FDOT.
So just so that everybody understands, this is kind of late to the game as far as engaging with FDOT, which is why Stacy doesn't have quite 100% clarity on this. But, you know, at least in the preliminary email, which, you know, I saw the response as well, what Stacy's saying is correct. There is a potential of either one, using Henry Davis Park Pond because of the now excess capacity of what was due to FDOT's changes, and potentially further discussion with FDOT to help modify these. As a form of practice, I would like to see us do this earlier on into our developments that are along state highways, specifically with the amount of FDOT construction we have going on in the area. Anytime we can partner with them to expand their ponds, that is a tremendous amount of saving, not only in engineering, but also in available land, which ultimately reduce the cost of development and allow things to be more affordable than what they are today. So, so thank you, Stacy, for your work and continuing effort with Adam and the team over at FDOT.
So have you worked on this project from the beginning?
So I'm not designing this project. I have been engaged with them. I have been helping them set up meetings with FDOT and you know, providing the support that they need from the city personnel. We did set up a meeting with FDOT probably a couple months ago to talk about, you know, when they realized the amount of stormwater and that they weren't going to be able to do it all on their property. We reached out to FDOT to see exactly what our boundaries were and if there was any leniency or anything that, thinking out of the box, that we weren't seeing. Essentially at that meeting, they said there really is nothing beyond our typical rules. There's no, exceptions if the city allows you to discharge at this location versus this location. We don't have a whole lot that we can offer as a city because in this one it's bound by, the FDOT roads on two sides. In a lot of other scenarios, we may be able to offer an exception of if you can discharge onto a city road, we may be able to lower the amount of stormwater, but unfortunately in every single scenario of this, it eventually gets to FDOT. And it's not far enough away for our rules to override FDOT rules.
Okay. So remind everybody that these projects, FDOT projects, were in play when we went under contract. It was not a surprise that the DOT was going to be part of this deal. My issue here is we're acting like it's a surprise. It's not. And how much time do we have left on the due diligence from the original contract?
If I could kind of spread light just to what Stacy said, so they had already engaged with FDOT early on in the project, but it was only through a re-engagement through a more creative, maybe mechanism of looking at different things at a granular level with people that are higher up in FDOT, that there was some movement to potentially provide other options. And so,
but this isn't a city problem. This is a buyer that's under contract problem. It's a city problem only because we own it, the property. But if somebody wasn't trying to work on it right now, we would not be having this conversation, okay? My concern is they're coming to ask for something that knew was already there. How much time's left on the due diligence? Do we know that? It wasn't it 18 months was the total due diligence?
Ms. Marler is checking on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking for that. And there's a 6-month due diligence.
6 months.
Period from, it looks like the agreement was signed on the 29th of July.
so we're already past that due
No, we're
diligence?
past
We're
that.
past the due diligence.
So if
Then-
we don't continue, then the agreement falls apart.
Correct.
Yes.
And so Mr. Kassan has been meeting regularly, monthly. So it's not that it's a surprise, it's that the engineers, as well as our engineer, and the process that it takes to work toward a resolution, it's just going to require a little bit more time.
But contractually, they have gone beyond the time that they can ask.
At their risk and their expense.
And they're, we got to think about what's inside the contract, what's inside there, not, and I want this project to happen. This isn't about that. Just because we're the city, remember, there's no money up front. There was no money involved in the to have the longer the due diligence. They can close late. We're going to buy everything back if they don't close. Everything was for the buyer, okay? That is not how contracts typically work. So I would be okay with this only if the buyer agreed to buy the time, particularly since they're past the due diligence period. Up to 5 months, if that's what they're asking for, $10,000 a month is not something that's out of ordinary here. And if they did it in 3, we'll give them the $20,000 back or apply it to the sales price. But they buy the time. That would be a typical solution in a situation like this in the real estate world.
So this contractor, developer responded to an RFP that we put out as the CRA. So we were looking for a partner to work with us to create this development that this community has said for more than 20 years that they like to see there.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so this is a partnership. This is not just a regular developer deal that would happen in the private market. The CRA has come representing the community to get something the community has been requesting for more than 20 years now.
I agree with that, okay? But the contract is what drives it now.
And to your point about whether there's money up front, there's been monies that have been expended. He's hired the local engineering company, and he's begun to do the work to get the due diligence that's necessary. Was there a chunk of upfront money put down on the deal as you're suggesting? No, that it's not. That wasn't required by us in our RFP.
So the reality is, I didn't find out that there was a stormwater issue until just I don't remember how long ago it was. It wasn't very long, just a couple of weeks ago. And so as soon as I found out about it, knowing it was at FDOT road, knowing we're in litigation with FDOT because they're taking part of this property, I mean, the property is smaller because FDOT's engagement in it, that it reach out, figure out, is there something else? Can we be more creative than what we've been? And through their analysis, going deeper than what they had done preliminarily, they did find other options. I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes it takes that extra push to see things happen. And as soon as I was made aware of it, I called, and I'm sure Janice has been involved in it all along, trying to do everything that she can as well to help it. And I mean, I don't know that it's unreasonable what you're asking for, but I also don't know it's unreasonable just to extend for 5 more months to get through this process, knowing what we know now. So.
And I'd also like to take a moment to address some of the questions that was asked during audience participation. I think our discussion has answered the why is the extension being asked for. Is it a stormwater runoff issue? Is it a little more complicated? Yes, that is the case. The reference to the affordable housing piece of it and what has been negotiated, Pedro, Mr. Gazan, would you address whether you are at a price point yet to be able to answer the question about what the units will be priced at?
I am not. I think the commitment that I made to the city early on was a commitment that I put in the agreement, which was the 20%. But my vision, as I've given it to the city, has been that to the extent that I can do more for affordability, I will do so. That, of course, has to take into account the numbers that I have to expend in order to make the development work. And so I'm not in a position yet to tell you, yes, we'll be able to have more, what the numbers will be with respect to the rental prices or the sale prices on the site, given the fact that I have to take into account both the development costs and what it will be by the time we go through the process. And so those are some of the items that I'm curating in order to ensure that we're in a position to address those issues. But at this point, what I can say is that we will continue to abide by the commitment that we made, which will ensure that you have at least 20% of those units affordable that we're providing on the site.
So suffice it to say that is a minimum and not a maximum.
That is correct. If I can get more units on here to be affordable, that is the goal. That's everything that I'm seeking to tailor this development to. I think the Glenwood community is very important, and ensuring that there's affordability at the site is really what I'm trying to achieve here, which is why I'm trying to figure out how do we address this issue with respect to the stormwater management in a way that allows us to move forward with a development that has both housing and the grocery store.
So is your request of 5 months, sir, that you find out at the end, because in the agenda item it's talked about, it's given some cost factor. Is your request for 5 months to find out what has to happen, and then you're asking the city to participate in that? Or you're just trying to figure out the cost for you to do what is going to be required by the DOT? Mr.
No. So what I'm seeking to do is I'm seeking to curate the degree of that cost. So as you may have heard from my engineers, the cost is a matter of degrees, right? It ranges from 850 to 1.8 million. And so I think the biggest issue that we're seeking to work through is how do I curate the plan to, one, take into account a cost that is on the lower side, but also that allows me to develop the project in a manner that is financially feasible. It makes no sense for any of us. At this point, it's not my intent to come to the city to ask the city for any additional things other than what I would be entitled to ask for with respect to some maybe the commercial aspects on certain incentives, but nothing for the stormwater management. Like that's something that I'm recognizing. I'm seeking to figure out how we deal with it. At this point, I'm not seeking to act. I am not asking the city to give me 5 months so that I can ask you for money to pay for that at the moment. Like that's not what I'm seeking to do. I'm trying to figure out how do we curate it to make sure we can take care of it on our end, and that we can curate.
If I could draw attention to a couple things, like that 155,000 gallon number, like the due diligence, no one knew that. So the idea that like they knew that there was 155,000 gallons worth of stormwater, they have to go through a soils analysis, which determines how much the ground perks. They have to go through all of this statistical analysis on impervious surface and what way the water flows and all of those things before they can even get to that number. And so it did come out higher than what they're anticipating. And the two numbers that we're seeing in our paper is the difference between a surface pond, as represented in the first drawing that we saw, versus having to go underground storage, which is a much more expensive process because the stormwater calculations, soils analysis, FDOT requirements, all of those things are creating a much larger capacity thing, to the point that even FDOT doesn't have enough capacity to just absorb it in their ponds. To put that into perspective, how much stormwater we're talking about. So it's not, I don't think it's fair to say that this is a known that everyone should have known, because that's not how engineering works. You have to go through each step before you find the knowns and variables. And right now, the variable is 890,000 to 1.8. And what this engagement on Henry Davis Pond, FDOT, is seeking to see, can we get it back closer to the number that was anticipated before on a surface level pond? Is there a way to attenuate some of it? And so, but without the time, we're never going to know that. And any other developer is going to have to go through this same process. Like,
What's the due diligence for? They should have been doing soil testing right out of the box. All of that information should have been done in 6 months.
And in January, the rules changed.
Okay.
So that
they come to us in
increased the amount.
January and ask for the extension, not 3 months after the due diligence. I mean,
I agree with
if we're
you
not going to
in some
follow the
aspect.
contract, why have one?
I agree with you in some amount, but the city is not at risk. The developer is at risk. So they've spent 3 more months doing due diligence at their cost on a contract that may not get approved for an extension tonight. And so it wasn't really on our table to, as far as to drive to a contract extension. It was on the developer to drive to a contract extension, but they operated in good faith to continue through these conversations. And so now they're asking to be able to complete the work. I don't know that that's unreasonable. I mean, I understand what you're saying. The contract should have been extended earlier, but who lost in that? If
The
this
city
contract's
did,
not.
because the buyer is not following the contract, and they're out of due diligence.
So what are the damages?
Hold on a second. The damages could be another 5 months, and we still don't close, and we have to pay Mr. Gassant back for all more money that he's about to spend, and we still don't have a development at the end.
Is that true, or do we
That
have to pay
could
them back
happen.
for their work?
The contract says that that's what we do based on the CPI. Remember that conversation I asked him? That's what the contract says that we do. We pay him back for the acquisition expenses and the CPI cost if it doesn't close.
Have we
Well, we
received-
havened closed on it yet.
We haven't closed. I don't think we even received any money.
No. No. So, and I just want to add to Commissioner Street that is what the due diligence period is for. No developer is going to go and start paying for a lot of engineering before they know they're actually under contract on it. And in addition to the additional stormwater that is needed, and then the other engagement with FDOT, there have been efforts to try to purchase other properties and other parcels we all knew that was the goal all along, and staff has worked hard. Commissioner Lucas has met out in the field with Mr. Gassant on the phone. That has not been as successful as we'd hope, trying to acquire additional property to further build out this parcel. I don't know that that's something you would have necessarily known before going into the due diligence period as well. So,
Let me correct you on something. Engineers are involved in this from the very beginning, okay? That is something, civil engineers are involved in the very beginning. If they're busy, the future's bright. They get to them before they get to anybody else. So to say that the engineering happened on the back end, not true. The DOT was already involved in this site before, when we went under contract. There are things here that are very relevant to the question that's being asked, because the contract is driving what we're doing here. If we're not going to let it drive it, let's just let anybody come and do what they want to. Otherwise, they would enforce it on us. If we're not doing what we're supposed to, a buyer's going to enforce it and make us do what we're supposed to. This is a big deal, guys. It's just being talked about publicly. How do we make people follow the rules? Either this guy they're asking after due diligence. So one option is no, one option is yes, one option is they can buy time. Okay, that's very common. But I might look at it differently. I know I wouldn't look at it differently if, one, we were in the due diligence period, or right at the end when it just ended, not 3 months later. That's a concern for me, because now we're 3 months later, and now we're asking for 5 months. That's 8 months.
I hear that as a valid, I mean, we should have had this contract to us, what, 2 months ago? Is that what, when did it expire?
It expired on February the 15th.
Okay, so it should have been on our February CRA agenda to see this extended. So I agree with that.
And I want this project. This isn't about that.
Okay, so now the question is, what do we do from here?
All right, let me ask you this. You said that has DOT made an offer to us on what they're taking? Yeah.
We're in litigation.
Have they made an offer yet or no?
I think they've made some sort of offer, but I think the city rejected that offer, and now we have attorneys involved.
Best state to be in, by the way, on condemnation is the state of Florida. So we can take some, it's an undetermined amount, but we can use that amount of money of what they're going to pay us to put back into the deal. Okay, there's a way that we can use that to help this project, and I'm thinking out loud here how to move forward. Apple Fields, for example, across from where the church is, your church, they sold that and used that money on the backside to come back to the owner to do some improvements that were required, okay? We can take that and give it back to him if he spent the money up front, or put it into the deal to help build some of that. We just don't know what that looks like right now, okay?
So Robert, are you saying that we should go and pay for the stormwater?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
So
I'm saying Mr. Gassant might want to move forward, but we have this money coming back that is affecting this site. What are we going to do with that? We can use it
offset
in
our
this
reserves.
deal. Use it in this deal. We just don't know what it is. I'm saying that's an option. We can put it into the deal.
That could come 3 years down the road. I mean, we don't know when that happens. Like, every development is about taking the variables and getting them down to predictability. And so this process and what's being talked about here is getting it from 1.8 to 8.90. Okay, I mean, that's what he's trying to solve for. I'm trying to understand what we're trying to solve for now. Are we not going to approve the extension? If we cancel the extension, then what do we do? Are we going back out to RFP and start this whole process over again? I'm trying to understand, what are we trying to achieve here? I agree that we should have had the contract back in February. I fully agree with that. Staff should take note of that for future. But what do we do from here?
And so staff has been in constant communication with the developer as this has played out. And so while it's coming to this board today, it is not a surprise. So there's been action. We brought the city staff involved. As you can see here, he brought in the local engineering company, who I believe is here. We want to bring him forward to share from that perspective, if you will, because you've worked with Mr. Gassant since last summer.
Yeah. As he's coming down, I just want to clarify one more thing. So the engineering firm was involved from the beginning, but the beginning is after we're under contract. What I was trying to communicate is no developer is going to spend money on engineering until they know they're under contract on a particular project. And they did. It was within that first few weeks is when we engaged with our engineering team, because I wasn't going to have our staff spend a lot of time on it either until I knew that we had a particular contract. So,
okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
Just give your name and title. It's fine. Thanks.
Sorry?
Just name and title.
Rush Rodney, Anchor Engineering, project manager for the project, as Jonathan mentioned earlier. So I'm going to just echo what Stacy, Jonathan, and Pedro has said. Pretty much we've been involved with FDOT trying to see what they can help us with. As far as the 8.9 number goes, that's mainly like 100% surface treatment, which is a lot more cost effective, as they mentioned, rather than going for underground chambers. So the main issue with this project is the groundwater table is significantly higher than what we thought it was originally. And as you can see, like around that area, there's a lot of wet ponds. You pretty much see no dry ponds in that area, and wet ponds typically require a lot more surface area to be able to provide the same treatment as a dry pond would. So that's pretty much what's bounding this project from an engineering perspective. There's not much we can do. We looked at various different alternatives. I believe we provided 4 scenarios in that cost analysis we provided a couple months ago. So we have been trying to work this out as best we can.
What kind of alternatives?
We've looked at storm tech. We've looked at, I believe FDP has some new requirements as far as nutrient loading goes. So we've looked at some creative solutions to be able to reduce the nutrient loading from the site. And obviously we've looked at surface treatment as well.
So that range that you've given us from roughly 800 and something thousand to your point includes those options that you
Yes, I don't believe it includes the land acquisition aspect of it. You can verify that for me, Jonathan, if you have it in front of you. But yeah, it includes everything else as far as design and stormwater perspective.
Is to acquire more land.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have you looked at, and I'm sure you have, I'm just asking the question, have you looked at installing pervious surfaces where you were looking at originally doing impervious surfaces?
No, we haven't looked at that. I mean, you typically don't get that much credit for that. I mean, I guess we could look at swapping out the asphalt and stuff like that for pervious pavement. Just don't know how helpful that would be for this particular project.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I would suggest that, Pedro, that y'all do a cost-benefit analysis on that, up to 100% of your pervious surface, and just see if you know, you may find that if you can reduce I'm not an engineer, so if you can reduce your requirements by about 55%, it may be worth the money. It may be. I don't know. I can't tell you it will or it won't. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but from a business perspective, it might make sense.
All right. Yeah, we could look at different alternatives depending on what Pedro wants to go with.
How many projects that you guys are working on are being affected by the new rules that came into effect in January?
Pretty much all the projects that we do now. The only ones that don't get affected by it are projects that have been grandfathered in, which obviously this wouldn't apply to this particular project.
So I bring that to attention. Anything that is now in process after January 1, 2026 has a completely different new calculation that's never been done before, and it's very extreme. And so the reality is what FDP, Northwest Florida Management, everybody's pushing towards is a master stormwater plan and strategy. Looking at this with FDOT is a step in that direction. Looking at vacant parcels that we have and how we can create our own stormwater bank that would then be sold to developers is how we can ensure that that work goes forward. Pretty much anything you saw last year that was constructed on a small piece of parcel would probably not happen this year. And so it is a significant amount of change that you're now just hearing a little bit of the effects that's happening. And so, but I would expect us to be involved in stormwater in a tremendous amount from this point forward.
Why 5 months? Why is that the number?
I think that's a Pedro question.
Yeah, I think that's more of a Pedro question.
Why 5 months?
Already eaten 2 months, haven't we?
Well, that's.
Yeah. So look, I'm always pushing for my team to move things forward fast. So if you actually do the calculations, when I ran the numbers for my request, that would put us around July 11th. And so for me, because I actually have a different date, I have August 15th as the date that the agreement was signed. And so from that date to the request that we have, it's still about July 11th. And so my focus has been on trying to keep all of this moving without saying, hey guys, give me another year to work on this. I'm doing 5 months so that I can get everybody on board so that we can focus on seeing if we can create the solution as soon as possible and get this item addressed. And so that I can move forward with the site plan, submit the plan, and further engage with the community and the city as to what the actual plan is that we're submitting to you, as opposed to still talking about the deal and the agreement. So that's why I asked for 5 months instead of more months, because I wanted to keep the pedal to the metal. I think I could have asked for 7 or 8 more months, given what we're dealing with, but I wanted to see if there's a path for me to keep things moving, because I really do want to see us get this thing done sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Mr. Gassan. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve recommendation for 5 months extension. Is there any further deliberation?
I mean, the only thing I'll say is like, I'm engaged. I've not had a single conversation with Pedro. I'm engaged because of the fact that this neighborhood wants a grocery store. And so I'm going to continue to stay engaged and do whatever we can to help them get to that point. So.
One last thing I will mention, as Mr. Street said, these new rules from FDP, the Water Management District, it's really stringent, and a lot of projects have died because of this or are in significant jeopardy of dying, thank you, because of these new rules. So this is something that a lot of engineers have been dealing with for the past couple months, and it's pretty novel. So, you know, we look at different things to be able to solve this. So yeah, this project, as the people have mentioned, is going to be really good for the community, I believe. So anything we can do to help Mr. Gasson out would be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, you were starting to speak, sir?
Yeah, I think Robbie's your points are valid. And I think that if we were having the same discussion in 5 months, I'm going to say no. That this is sort of, I think there's plenty of time within 5 months to, you know, he went through the whole process of, can I acquire more property? He seemingly cannot. Now he's forced into this decision. So I'm in favor of this, but it will not be the same decision in 5 months for me. So
What?
it would not be the same decision for me in 5 months. My vote will change.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask what y'all, is there any thoughts on, well, one, let me ask Joy, we're out of our due diligence period, so should we make a motion to extend the due diligence period 5 months? Because that's what we're extending, so we need to classify it correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then what's the appetite, if any, to ask the buyer to put up some money to buy some time? I mean, we're late coming to the party. He's asking us to do that. I'm fixed on the contract because that's what we do, folks. That's what is making this happen. And if we don't follow it, what comes next that we're not going to follow, okay? And that's why I'm asking this.
Yeah. You would need to make a substitute motion if you want to add any financial incentives from him, sir.
I do worry that we're making it even harder, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
And not only that, the rule change that we've heard about from our staff as well as the engineering firm that Mr. Kazan has brought forth said that there's been a significant rule change. So it's not the usual. There was should stay away from sports analogy, but a curveball thrown in this project. And yes.
So, Commissioner Hughes, I understand what you're trying to do, and from a principled standpoint, I agree with you. However, in this situation, if this were a baseball team coming to put in a stadium in a very large parcel, and I think it might be a different conversation. But Pedro here is trying to put in a grocery store and the other things that would support that in this neighborhood. And so I don't think that charging him extra per month is going to get us the result that we want. And ultimately, we want a grocery store in this part of town. So while I agree with you, if the situation was different, I would probably fully back you on this. But I do think in this one, since he's asking for 5 months and it's not going to cost us anything to provide that to him, he's not asking us for money. He's just asking us for time, and I think it would be in our best interest and his to grant that. But I do agree that it should be in the oh my gosh, you just said it.
The due diligence?
Due diligence, thank you. That it is an extension of the due diligence period, which is the
Yeah, that was the recommendation.
And I agree with that. I mean, I even called Commissioner Lucas one day and said, hey, I'm trying to maybe think about a grocery store downtown, but I don't want to mess up. She said, no problem. I'm 100% in favor of this deal, of this project. And it coming alive, and we need it.
All right.
That's our job to look after the city, and that's all I'm looking at contractually. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
All right, seeing no more, Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Hughes,
Yes.
Board Member Lucas,
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roush and Rodney. We are now moving, and Mr. Gassant, thank you. Have a good evening, sir. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, board members.
All right, item number 8 is consideration and authorization to finalize and close on the purchase of property located at 704 East 15th Street, parcel number 17340-010-000, using CRA Downtown North funds. As background information, the commercially zoned property located at the above address at the southeast corner of 15th Street, US Highway 98 and MLK Jr. Boulevard within the Downtown North CRA District is currently vacant and represents a strategic corner parcel along 2 major corridors that could support future redevelopment or public use consistent with the Downtown North CRA plan. An appraisal dated September 9th, 2025 valued the property at $250,000, and the owner agreed to a purchase price with the city of $175,000. The City Commission approved the purchase on October 14th, 2025, and directed staff to bring the item to the CRA Board for authorization to use Downtown North CRA funds. After the CRA Board approval on November 4th, 2025, a Phase 1 environmental site assessment or ESA, was conducted during the due diligence and identified a historic petroleum release from a former gas station on the site. The property is enrolled in the Florida Department of Environmental Protection state-funded early detection incentive cleanup program, under which the state is responsible for environmental assessment and remediation. The DEP has confirmed the site's participation in the program and is aware of the CRA's intent to purchase the property for future redevelopment, which is acceptable, provided the department is notified of future plans and allowed access as needed for monitoring or remediation activities. Purchase of this parcel was unanimously approved by the City Commission at the March 24th, 2026 Commission meeting. Staff recommendation to the Board is that you all approve purchase of the property at 704 East 15th Street for the amount of $175,000.00 and authorize the Executive Director to execute all necessary documents to complete the transaction. Staff would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Let's do this before the seller changes their mind. We're walking in with equity, let's get that one done.
Yeah. All right, there is a motion and a second on the table. Is there anything to discuss or do any deliberation from the Board?
There were some comments during public participation, one in reference to what to put on the property, and as has just been read, it was a former site of
a gas station.
So that kind of limits what we are able to put there, although I do share the sentiment that I'd like to see something there other than a parking lot, because it is, a parking lot may not be the highest and best use at that corner, but our highest and best use is limited because of the history of the site.
Yep. So we would actually have a workshop before we planned anything. I know at the commission meeting we had a little rendering. I mean, that was something our engineering division threw together probably in 30 minutes as a concept. As you all know, though, parking is a bit of a challenge. We do need some additional parking at the MLK Junior Rec Center, so that was one of the reasons. But we would workshop this, get some feedback from the community and some direction from the Board prior to moving forward with it.
And one other point, this acquisition allows us to move that archway entrance to the MLK Rec Center to the corner, which is a safer area for children and adults to cross the street. Right now, we're still seeing them crossing in the middle of the road and not at the intersections where they are lighted. So.
Yep, absolutely. So, seeing no further discussion, Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street,
Yes.
Board Member Granger.
Yes.
Board Member Hughes,
Yes.
Board Member Lucas,
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item number 9 is consideration and approval of a commercial property or CPI grant in the amount of $15,000 to Antonio Middleton, owner of Get You a Box, for exterior improvements to the commercial property located at 1415 East 5th Street, Panama City, Florida, with parcel ID 22205-000-000 within the Millville Community Redevelopment Area District. As background information, the CRA Board approved the Commercial Property Investment Grant Program on December 2nd of last year to encourage exterior improvements to commercial properties along the US 98 5th Street corridor, enhance the visual appearance of the district, and to promote reinvestment and strengthen the area's commercial identity. On March 27th of 2026, Antonio Middleton, owner of Get You a Box, submitted an application for funding assistance to the Millville CRA Commercial Property Improvement Grant Program for the property located at the above address. This proposed project includes exterior improvements consistent with the adopted program guidelines, which supports facade enhancements and other visible upgrades that contribute to the overall revitalization of the Millville CRA district. The applicant has selected funding option 2, the CRA direct vendor payment, in which the CRA will issue payment directly to the selected contractor upon completion of the approved improvements and verification of compliance with program requirements. The CRA staff has reviewed the application and accompanying required documentation and has determined that the project meets the eligibility requirements of the Commercial Property Improvement Grant Program. Staff recommends that the CRA board approve the Commercial Property Improvement Grant in the amount of $15,000 to Antonio Middleton, owner of Get You a Box, for the property located at 1415 East 5th Street within the Millville CRA district, and staff would recommend a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or deliberation?
Go eat there if you haven't. It's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
All right, seeing none, Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is discussion, consideration, and approval to execute a contract with Playmore Recreational Products and Services for the purchase and installation of the playground equipment at Truesdale Park, located within the St. Andrews Community Redevelopment District, in the amount of $288,154.22, utilizing CRA funding and authorization to utilize a piggyback contract. As background information, Truesdale Park, located within the St. Andrews CRA district, is currently being renovated following the damage from Hurricane Michael. As part of these improvements, the existing playground equipment was removed to accommodate construction of a new parking lot. The Panama City CRA is proposing to install a new modern playground designed for ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, with an updated safety surface featuring AstroTurf to provide improved recreational amenities for the area. Playmore Recreational Products and Services has provided a proposal for the purchase and installation of playground equipment, site furnishings, surfacing, and related improvements for the Truesdale Park in the amount of $288,154.22. The proposed purchase will be made utilizing a piggyback contract with the School District of Manatee County, contract number 26-0041-MR. The project again includes playground equipment, installation, safety surfacing, site furnishings, and associated improvements necessary for a complete playground installation at Truesdale Park. Staff recommendation is that the CRA board approve the contract with Playmore Recreational Products and Services as explained above, and staff would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions for staff? Hearing none, Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Hughes?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 11 is an update on the Incremental Development Alliance, or INCDEV, small-scale development program. Our partnership with the Incremental Development Alliance has been focused on building local capacity for small-scale development within our CRA districts. The goal is simple: to give people the tools and understanding they need to take on real projects that align with our adopted redevelopment plans. Program progress over the last many months: lecture initiated September 2025, workshop November 2025, boot camp completed the end of last month. Real projects are now beginning to take shape. We have a better understanding of the process, and we're seeing more local involvement. We'll be moving into the monthly meetup starting later this month to keep the momentum going. These will be topic-focused sessions based on what participants need most, including things like the city's RFP and bidding process. This program is helping to build a pipeline of local developers who are better prepared to take on projects that align with the CRA comprehensive plans. As these projects move forward, participants will be in a stronger position to pursue larger opportunities, including potential P3s, other financing tools the board may want to explore. This has been a solid first step in turning interest into action. We'll continue to track progress and keep you all updated as these projects develop. There's no action needed by the board this evening. This was simply an update that was requested, but we're happy to answer any questions or defer to any comments if the board would so desire.
Yeah, one of the comments that I had from our meeting was going to our staff beyond the CRA department, but all the departments, and say, we have scholarships for our entire staff of, like, if you're in, Parks and Rec, you can sign up for this course. It's not just for, just Panama City residents. It's even for our own employees and our own teams. And how incredible of a story would it be that you work for the city, you take a course, and you start doing real estate on the side? How cool would that be? So I think I'd love to see the city, offer it directly to our staff, saying this is for you as well.
Okay. I don't know of anything that would prohibit that. Do you, Ms. Waldron or Ms. Mahler?
I think he's just looking for the encouragement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but paying for it, I don't know that there'd be any prohibition of using.
Well, now we're at the part with the monthly meetups. It's for those participants who have been participating. But if we ever did this again, absolutely, I think we could look at scholarships for city team members.
Meetups can be for anyone.
Yeah, meetups are open to the public.
Yeah.
So it's the 13 who participated, as well as any others who might want to come along. As Ms. Landry mentioned in her public presentation, she and the others were greatly engaged. We saw several great pitches. When you talk about a 2-hour evening and you get 90 people to show up and 50 spend a day looking at it and delving more into small business, small scale development. And then we've got a dozen that participated in the workshop over a 5-week period of time. So thank you to the colleagues for voting for this, to bring it to us, and then for the small scale development. But this is truly one of the ways that we level the playing field by making the tools available to community members to get engaged and, as I've been saying, to get in the game.
So the 12 that went through are those 12 working to have a business, do a development?
Oh, some of them are already doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Several of them, we had the range from I have an idea that I'm thinking about to I've done developments and here's some of what I've done, and I'll take you on a tour.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no more questions, moving on to item number 12. Item number 12 was discussion and consideration of establishing a redevelopment site preparation grant program for all 4 community redevelopment agency districts, including proposed FY26 funding allocations and a framework for future fiscal year funding. As background information, the Panama City CRA has received multiple requests from property owners, residents, and businesses for assistance with demolition and site preparation activities within the CRA districts. These requests have highlighted a need for a program that helps remove barriers to redevelopment at the front end of multiple projects. Staff is proposing a creation of a redevelopment site preparation grant program to provide financial assistance for the removal of dilapidated structures and preparation of sites for future development. The intent of this program is to address blighted properties, improve site readiness, and encourage reinvestment across all 4 CRA districts. For FY26, the following funding is proposed. Millville CRA District, $400,000. St. Andrews CRA District, $0. Downtown North District, CRA District TBD, and the Downtown CRA District, $100,000. The proposed program structure would not limit the amount an individual applicant may request. However, each CRA district would have a defined funding allocation per fiscal year. Funding would be offered on a first-come, first-served basis, subject as always, to CRA board approval, with the final award amount determined at the board's discretion. Establishing annual funding caps by district supports better budgeting and financial planning, while a formalized grant program framework helps ensure consistency and reduces potential audit risk associated with ad hoc funding requests. In addition to the proposed FY26 funding, staff is recommending the program be structured as an ongoing redevelopment tool with a predetermined percentage of each CRA district's annual budget allocated to the program in future fiscal years. A target range of 10 to 15% is recommended, as this level is sufficient to support meaningful redevelopment activity while not limiting the CRA's ability to fund other priorities. This program is intended to complement existing redevelopment tools. While tax increment financing rebates are typically realized on the back end of a project through increased property values, this program focuses on the front end by helping property owners overcome initial redevelopment costs that often delay or prevent projects from even moving forward. By offering both front-end assistance through redevelopment site preparation grants and back-end support through TIF reinvestment, the CRA can create a more comprehensive approach to redevelopment. This dual approach is expected to serve as a catalyst for both commercial and residential improvements, reduce blight, stimulate economic activity, and support opportunities for workforce and affordable housing development. Pending board discussion and direction, staff anticipates bringing a formal grant program for consideration and approval at the May 5th, 2026 CRA board meeting. The CRA staff has no formal recommendations and is seeking board direction on the following program elements in order to finalize the redevelopment site preparation grant program as desired by the CRA board and for their consideration at the May 5th of this year CRA board meeting. We do request the CRA board to provide direction, if they so desire, on the following program elements in order to finalize the redevelopment site preparation grant for consideration at the May 5th meeting. We have the checklist, if you'll also look after the demolition and site preparation program examples. And this would be a decision checklist. And we would appreciate that feedback. Don't necessarily have to complete it this evening, but if you could complete it and get it back to myself or Brandy or one of our CRA program managers, that would be greatly appreciated. But we look at certain items such as funding allocation by district, per applicant funding limits, funding structure by applicant type, program administration, eligible activities, eligible criteria, program safeguards, program prioritization if is desired. Again, staff does request feedback and direction from the CRA board and would put this forward for your discussion and action.
If I may. I have two things I'd like to discuss up front. One, do we want to get into the grant program business? Because there's already 4 lined up, and we're going to be doling out money. So that's another task for our staff. We have 57 projects under the CRA guide right now, which is entirely too many. And now we're going to add this. So I'd like for us to consider, is that something we want to do? And if we do, can we set aside the Boys and Girls Club? Because this has been designed to help the Boys and Girls Club, but we're designing a demolition grant program for the CRAs. And the staff did a great job of giving us a bunch of information around the state of Florida and other cities, which I went and looked at. It's amazing how many people, how many cities use it and how they use it. And none of them give out $400,000. The max is $200,000, and based on that, you have to have some criteria to get there. Most of them is $100,000. So my concern here is that we're setting up a program that's tailored to a specific organization asking for money, and I disagree that many people have been asking for demolition stuff where this all came about because of one request. And if we can set that aside and have a discussion to build this program about the CRAs, not about a program. Because if we build it this way, Josh, it may not work in your ward this way, and it may not work in another CRA. Is that something that we can agree on up front, not to, let's talk about the criteria that it's going to take for anybody to do it. And at the end, if the Boys and Girls Club qualify, they can get what we come up with. Is that something that we could agree on? Because I don't feel like that's what we're doing.
I agree with that, and from my perspective is I was looking at it through the lens of like what else would apply to this, and I really what my mind goes back to is the toy box property. Jason Myers Electric purchased the property with the intention to remove that blighted piece. The city was not able, we had no program, we had nothing available to help them with the demolition. So I'm not typically for demolishing buildings, but in that case, as the person that swung the hammer, you could have pushed that building over, really, truly. It was in that bad of condition. So, I mean, for me, I would love to offer an incentive to, Gold Nugget is done in, I think, another 2.5 years. So on their operational agreement, they will no longer be a gentleman's club after that, although that's ironic to call it that, but they won't be operating as that. But this would be a great, if they want to build something different, they want to do something different besides a strip club, I think this is a great incentive to help them, offset their cost and demolishing what's there. So I can think of a few structures that I could see this applying to in St. Andrews. Not a lot, but I could think of a couple.
Old slabs
So-
even, it could be old slab. I like to keep the program kind of broad. I think the cap's a good point to make. My worry with, the goal of the CRA is to add things to the tax base. And so if we are just helping people tear things down, we really should be making sure that if we help them tear them down, that something's getting built in its place.
There's a rule, but that's a qualifier, there's a rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good incentive.
Yeah,
rule.
exactly.
Guys, I don't want to just demo anything either.
Yeah, totally. And so I think those are all good precautions, but I want to, we want to keep the programs kind of broad so that we don't have to constantly come back and amend them based on every situation, because every project's different. And
But nothing that they showed us is broad. They all have specific requirements, financials, site plans, all of that, and then what is not allowed. Most of them don't do churches, religious, or 501(c)(3)s, okay? You know why? Because they're not getting anything back off of it.
Sure.
They don't do interiors, okay? Just like we don't. I think this discussion should be about criteria first and setting up how that looks like. I don't think we ought to come back next month and have to have this baked in. I think we ought to really think about this. It's got to help all CRAs. And you're right, every project's different, Mayor, but there are some things that are not going to change. How they come into the project, I think, ought to be the same. Everybody ought to have to play by the same exact set of criteria. And there was one in here, it's in Delray Beach. It's if you get funding through the site, you can't come back for another 10 years if something works that way. So you can't build your projects based on the backs of the CRA. Those types of things we have to think through. And I looked at 9 different cities on, some of these and then others, and they all center around wanting to help, wanting to increase tax base, but making sure that there's limits on caps, and most of the people have to put some money in the deal. And that's upfront costs of site plans, those types of things. And they have to provide that up front.
yeah, I don't know if I'd be in favor if someone just said, I want to tear something down and tear it down.
Right.
And I don't have any money to build everything ever.
So I got a
And
simple solution. Let's just remove blight removal. And then it will only be in cases that there's going to be new construction that the grant could be applied. Does that work? Just removing the one statement of blight removal structures that fail to meet safety or aesthetic standard, and then that would mean the only projects eligible for this grant would be new construction, and the existing structures are incompatible with existing or anticipated redevelopment.
Well, Board, if I may, with all due respect, I'm not asking you guys to go through the checklist tonight. I think all we really need is, sounds like you guys are in favor of the program. I think all we need is a motion to set the program. And then, again, the staff, Ms. Circle, did a great job. Y'all each take this worksheet, and that's exactly the feedback that we're asking for you guys through 13 different items. And if y'all all don't want to do that, we will all compile this for feedback and action at the May 5th agenda. Of course, if y'all want to sit here and go through the checklist tonight, that's your prerogative. That was, I know, we're not leaving till we're done. That's right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
That was not staff's intention.
So we have homework that's here.
Yes, sir.
To do. Okay.
Yeah, and we would love that
I would
feedback, and of
motion to
course, that will
approve
become a
homework
public
after we have
record, but we'd love that feedback, so.
And if we could get it in the next week or so we can
Yeah.
have time to compile it and put it in the next agenda.
Yes.
I don't think we ought to have to do that. I don't want us to have the pressure of, got to get it right now to get back here, because that's where we're going to make a mistake. We're starting with, I believe, the wrong premise to create this, okay? And let's back down from that, move them aside. I think we agree with that. And let's build a program that works for everybody. That might take another meeting of us talking publicly. We might use it in a virtual meeting, maybe.
Let's talk about it Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay, that works.
Okay.
Thank you.
But
have a motion?
So we do need a motion if we do want, because staff's not going to work on it unless y'all do want to establish the program.
Who wants the program?
I like the program.
Did you motion?
Yeah, I motioned to approve it, but apparently we have homework to do. So, yes, I motion to establish the program for incentivization of demolition and site preparation.
All right, is there a second?
So we're approving just that the staff's going to do more research.
Just the
based on
program,
homework.
just
We're not
the whole
establishing the
concept, because
rules of it.
again, we've heard feedback from y'all. We don't want to go and spend a lot of time collecting information from y'all and building everything if y'all don't even support the general concept of the program. That's all we're doing is the general concept of the program, no specifics.
But we don't have a general concept yet. So what is it that are we voting on, that we're approving a program that we don't know what it looks like?
No, we're motioning on staff expending time on this issue.
All right. Okay.
Right?
Correct. That is correct. No, we're wanting you all to provide feedback on the specifics. We will then take that information and consolidate it and present it to y'all in a very formal and official fashion at the May 5th CRA board meeting. And y'all are under no obligation to formally approve it. Y'all can punt it to the June meeting if you want. But we would love to get feedback from y'all through this in a very deliberative fashion.
Very efficient way.
Trying to, sir, trying to. So, all right, we have a motion. Did we have a second?
You're second.
No.
Do you need a second?
We do need a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the general concept, and then we'll get feedback from the board in the coming weeks.
A general concept.
That is correct. There's no specifics. We're waiting on you guys to share what you want to see. So, all right. Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Hughes?
No.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Chairman Branch?
Just open the door for them.
Motion passes.
All right, motion passes. All right, item number 13 is project updates. This report provides a mid-year review and status update on the projects and programs outlined in the goals and objectives, as well as those included in the board-approved annual work plan. As part of our statutory requirements, we're required to track and report this information to the state at the end of the fiscal year. This report supports that requirement while also keeping the board informed on the progress. In addition to the projects originally identified, the report also includes any new projects or programs added during the fiscal year to date, providing a comprehensive snapshot of all current efforts across all 4 districts and where they stand. If you have any questions on either specific project or program, staff is happy to provide additional detail this evening. Are there any questions on each particular project?
I'd just like to make a comment on one of our projects. We had discussed doing a park at Oaks by the Bay with playground equipment. The Truesdale Park is that we will not be putting another park
Correct.
at Oaks by the Bay. I just want to make sure everybody's on board for doing that.
Although there has been some ancillary comments about maybe like some swings or something kind of over in that area, like pergola swings, that kind of thing. A full-blown playground, that is correct, Commissioner, yes.
Robbie, is this when you said we had too many projects?
Yeah, we have 57 projects, 9 are completed, 7 are pending, 37 are ongoing, 1 board removed, 1 paused, 1 pursuing, and 1 was made. That was what was put in our packet here. And I'd like to ask each commissioner to go through, and if something is you thought of and now it's come and gone, let's take it off. Let's not have, this is mind-boggling.
We can take all the stuff off of Ward 3, out of it, completely out of it.
And I'll take it off of Ward 1. How about that? Make it easy. But there's some that are important and some are not. Yes, look at that.
Just took quite a few off.
Yeah, but it's just, you
Welcome
look
to
at it
St.
and go,
Andrews,
what's
Michelle.
first? Who's going first? Who's going second?
So there are, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but there are rules that we set the goals, we set the budget, and we track how we're doing. So it's not just that we just go, oh, done, let's take it out of there. It's part of the record of,
Our annual plan.
yes. So we have to track it.
So what we just checked off 1 today is now board approved. So I guess help me understand this list.
Well, the percent column where it says complete is the percentage of completion of the project.
Okay.
What is
Thank you.
district?
I guess I'm asking so I understand the concern. Is the concern there's some of these that are at 0%? Is that the concern?
Why are some green and some purple? Well, yeah, I guess that was on the last page.
It's on the
Purple is ongoing or completed,
There's a thing
green
called a
is pending, or it's,
I'll take it.
I don't know.
The color coding, if you flip to the next page, it explains that the blue is what is reported in our annual work plan, and the green is what's reported in our annual goals and objectives. We're required to report on these. The other stuff that's in white is just projects that we took on in addition to those.
At board request.
Got a lot going on.
The whole throw it against the wall and see what sticks. And it's just
Well, I mean, thanks to our great team, a lot sticks and we're getting a lot done.
We're stretching them.
We are. So if you don't have any free time, you can't get in trouble. So. All right, any further questions? Yes, sir.
Michelle, do you have any concerns with the ones that have been added on? Or are you comfortable with the workload to complete all of this before the end of the year? Or are we going to have to carry over some stuff? What do you feel?
I don't have any concerns at all. There will be a few projects that always go into the next fiscal year. We can't always tie them up by the end of the year. But I don't see any concerns with this list as of right now.
And that's pretty standard across all CRAs across the
And
state.
we're operating within budget with these parameters.
They're not
So,
doing 57 projects.
so what I hear is we're on budget, and the majority of these at least should be completed by the end.
Yes.
Except
The end of
boardwalk,
December or
I don't-
the government year? Which one is that?
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year? Okay.
And I would ask the same of Lena, as she is responsible, a manager for these as well.
Yeah, Lena also did a great job.
They do, some of them do have to, roll up. They won't get finished by the end of the fiscal year, but, the budget is already allocated out for us, so.
I mean, this is the
we do
first
know
time
that
I've had a
they
sheet
do
that
finish
had
up in the new
percentages, so I'm
fiscal
sorry
year.
if I seem confused
The
by
budget's
that.
there for
So I mean, that's a good thing.
We're trying to provide more information. So, and when I said that's standard, I meant sometimes projects rolling over from one fiscal year to the next is a common practice across all CRAs.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Physical work might be.
Matter of fact, I'm going to take it with me.
All right. If there's no further questions, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And there's a second. Ms. Webb, please call the roll.
Board Member Street,
No.
Keep going. Keep going.
Board Member Granger,
Yes.
Board Member Hughes,
Yes.
Board Member Lucas,
Yes.
Chairman Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Meeting adjourned.